Have you ever found yourself saying no, not because you truly wanted to, but because fear had its hand on your shoulder? Because deep down, a voice whispered, "This might be too much for you." We've all been there. We all crave safety, predictability, that warm cocoon of comfort. It's wired into our survival instinct. Stick to the known. Avoid the unfamiliar. But here's the truth. Staying in our comfort zone, as cozy as it feels, can become a beautifully decorated prison. One with soft cushions, familiar faces, and routines that never challenge us. But no matter how soft that prison is, it still keeps us small, because growth doesn't happen where it's easy. It happens when we step out into the unknown, into discomfort, into the spaces where we might fail, but might also soar. That's where life truly begins, where we stop hiding behind excuses and start showing up, where we say yes to challenges, yes to fear, yes to becoming someone new. In today's video, we're diving into a story that speaks directly to anyone who's ever felt stuck, overwhelmed, or disconnected from their potential. We're breaking down Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes, a deeply personal, raw, and transformative book about a woman who, at the height of her success, realized she was still saying no to life. And then, she changed everything by saying yes. If you've ever felt like you're playing small, if you've ever wondered what's waiting for you on the other side of fear, the story is for you. So stay with me. Let's talk about how one woman learned to say yes and how you can too. Shonda Rhimes. You may know her as the creative powerhouse behind some of television's biggest cultural phenomena: Grey's Anatomy, Scandal, How to Get Away with Murder. She's not just a writer. She's a visionary, a storyteller who built worlds that millions escape into. A mogul, a media titan, a woman who seemingly had it all. But behind the spotlight, behind the awards and high-powered meetings, there was another story quietly unfolding. The plot twist. Shonda Rhimes was saying no to her own life, no to public appearances, no to interviews, no to social events, no to anything that took her out of her safe, controlled world. And on the surface, who could blame her? She was busy, successful, in demand. But deep down, Shonda wasn't avoiding distractions. She was avoiding fear, avoiding vulnerability, avoiding the parts of life that required her to be seen, not just admired. Then came Thanksgiving morning, a casual kitchen conversation. Her sister, offhandedly and without ceremony, said, "You never say yes to anything." Just 7 words. But to Shonda, they weren't small talk. They were a wake-up call, a mirror, a challenge, and something inside her shifted. What if she stopped saying no? What if she said yes to everything that scared her? That one decision to say yes for a full year sparked a journey that would challenge everything she thought she knew about herself. From stepping onto live stages to embracing her body, her voice, her worth, Shonda Rhimes opened the door to a completely new version of her life. That journey became her book, Year of Yes, a raw, funny, and unfiltered look into what happens when a woman at the top of her game admits she's still hiding and decides to stop. It's more than a memoir. It's a manifesto, a reminder that success without self-acceptance is only half the story, that the real transformation begins the moment we stop letting fear make our decisions for us. So if you've ever said no to something just because it scared you, if you've ever played small, stayed quiet, or stepped back when you wanted to step forward, Shonda's story will speak directly to you. Because saying yes, it might just change everything. The book Year of Yes explores several powerful themes, but they all revolve around one transformative truth. Your life only changes when you say yes to the things that scare you. Sounds simple, right? But how many of us actually live by that? How many dreams have we buried under fear? How many opportunities have we missed because we weren't ready or didn't think we were enough? For Shonda Rhimes, the queen of Thursday night television, fear wasn't a stranger. It was a quiet force that shaped her entire life. From the outside, she looked unstoppable, but inside, she was shrinking. Until one day, she made a radical decision. Say yes to everything that scared her for an entire year. Let's explore some of the most powerful lessons Shonda shares in Year of Yes. and what they can teach us about showing up for our lives. 1. Saying yes to fear. Let's start with the obvious. Fear. Shonda was terrified of public speaking, and that fear wasn't some irrational thought, it had roots, deep ones. Fear of being judged, of not being good enough, of stumbling in front of millions. You'd think someone who writes some of the most compelling dialogue on TV would feel at home on a stage, but she didn't. So what did she do? She said yes. Yes to commencement speeches. Yes to live interviews. Yes to standing under the blinding lights of national television. Voice trembling, hands shaking, but still standing. She didn't become brave overnight. She became brave through action. She writes, "I'm not a naturally brave person, but saying yes forced me to become one." That's the secret. Courage isn't something we wait to feel, it's something we practice. Each yes chipped away at the power fear held over her, and in doing so, she discovered something extraordinary. Fear shrinks the more you face it. 2. Saying yes to health and self-care. Another surprising thing Shonda said yes to. Her body. For years, she avoided mirrors. She ignored her health. She wore black and stayed silent and small. She focused on her work, her deadlines, her empire, but not on herself. During her year of yes, that changed, but not in the way you might think. This wasn't about quick fixes or perfection. It was about presence. She said yes to nourishment, eating with care, not shame. Yes to movement, not punishment, but love. Yes to rest because burnout isn't a badge of honor. Yes to looking in the mirror, not to criticize, but to acknowledge the person standing there fully. She lost over 100 pounds not for society, not for approval, but because she finally said, "I matter too." And in gaining health, she gained something far more valuable: confidence, energy, vitality, and the joy of showing up in her own skin. 3. Saying yes to saying no. Now here's the twist. Sometimes saying yes means saying no. We often think of yes as the opposite of no, but in truth, real growth comes from knowing what to say yes to. Shonda realized that her people-pleasing was costing her peace. She was saying yes to demands that drained her, to events she didn't want to attend, to obligations that pulled her away from what truly mattered. So, she flipped the script. She said yes to boundaries, yes to prioritizing family, yes to protecting her time, and that meant saying no to anything that didn't align. She writes, "No is a complete sentence. No justification, no guilt, no apology." In learning to say no with confidence, she made room for her real yeses, the ones that fed her soul, not just her schedule. 4. Saying yes to play. One of the most tender chapters of the book focuses on something so simple, so ordinary, and yet so overlooked in adult life: play. As a mother of young children, Shonda found herself constantly too busy. Deadlines, phone calls, scripts to review. There was always one more thing to check off the list. But one day, during her year of yes, she made a new rule. If her daughters asked her to play, she would always say yes, even if it was just 5 minutes. And what happened? Everything changed. 5 minutes turned into laughter, into connection, to presence. Play softened her. It brought her back to the joy of being alive, not just productive. And what's beautiful is this: those 5 minutes weren't just for her kids. They were for her. Because when we allow ourselves to play, we reconnect with the parts of us that still believe in magic. 5. Saying yes to authenticity. At its core, Year of Yes isn't just about challenges or speeches or kale smoothies. It's about truth. Throughout the book, Shonda peels away the layers of her carefully curated image. She admits she's introverted, awkward, scared of parties, tired of pretending to be fearless. And in doing so, she shows us something radical. You don't have to be fearless to be powerful. You don't have to be loud to be heard. You don't have to be perfect to be worthy. She didn't become a different person, she just became more herself. And that authenticity, that's where her real power came from. Final thoughts. Year of Yes isn't about becoming someone new. It's about finally giving yourself permission to become who you already are, beneath the fear, the excuses, the people-pleasing, and the pressure. Shonda Rhimes reminds us that yes isn't just a word, it's a doorway to connection, to freedom, to healing, to a life that feels less like surviving and more like living. So ask yourself, what would happen if you said yes to your fears, yes to your health, yes to your truth, because that might just be where your story really begins. So, what does Year of Yes actually give you, the reader, the viewer, the person watching this, wondering if their life could feel different? More than just motivation, more than a good story, it gives you a map, a roadmap for facing yourself, for rewriting the quiet rules you've been living by, for waking up one morning and realizing that maybe you've been saying no to the wrong things. This book doesn't promise a magic formula. It doesn't offer quick fixes or overnight confidence. What it does offer is truth, and that truth is simple. Transformation doesn't come from having it all figured out. It comes from taking one brave, honest, and comfortable step at a time. You'll begin to understand that fear isn't your enemy, it's your compass. The things that scare us the most are often the very things that point us to where growth lives, to where joy is waiting, to where you are waiting. You'll learn that saying yes doesn't just change your calendar, it changes your posture, your presence, your power. Because every time you say yes to something that matters, you open a door, and sometimes you open doors you never even knew were there. Opportunities, healing, connection, confidence, a more honest version of yourself. You'll realize you don't have to be fearless to be powerful. You just have to show up, even if your voice shakes, even if your heart races, even if all you have is a whisper of courage and a willingness to try. Because that's enough. That's where change starts. This book reminds us beautifully, vulnerably, that real growth is a choice, and that choice begins with a single word: yes. So maybe the question now is, what are you ready to say yes to? If you feel like life is quietly slipping past while you're stuck in maybe later, or not me, or just not ready yet, Year of Yes is your wake-up call. It's the reminder that you don't need a perfect plan or the right moment. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to start. Start small. Say yes to something that scares you today, even if it's tiny. A hard conversation, a new habit, signing up for that class you've talked yourself out of for years, taking the first step toward a dream you've let collect dust. Because the magic, the real growth, it never lives inside your comfort zone. It waits just outside of it. And once you say yes, even once you realize how powerful that word really is, if this video lit a spark in you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need that little nudge today. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What's one thing you're saying yes to this week? Until next time, step forward, even if you're scared, especially if you're scared, because that's when it counts the most.